My mother's message arrived at 11:50 p.m. on New Year's Eve. It wasn't a happy new year. It wasn't a photo of the party I'd spent weeks helping her plan. It was a single, clinical text that lit up my phone in the dark of my workshop. Lydia, don't come to the gala. Sienna thinks your hands look too rough. The sawdust smell clings to your clothes. And it's ruining the black tie aesthetic she's curated for Silas. Stay home. I stared at the screen. The blue light reflected off the workbench in front of me, illuminating the centerpiece I had just finished hand carving. A solid walnut sculpture, sanded until it felt like silk, designed specifically for their table. A gift they had happily accepted yesterday. Even while plotting to exclude me today, have you ever been the one doing all the work behind the scenes? Only to be hidden away when the guests arrive. Drop a yes in the comments if you know exactly how that feels. I didn't cry. I didn't reply. I just looked at my hands. They were rough. They were calloused and stained with walnut oil. But they were the hands that had paid for Sienna's design degree. They were the hands that had covered my parents' mortgage for the last 6 years. The workshop was freezing. Outside, the Pacific Northwest rain hammered against the corrugated metal roof. A relentless, driving rhythm that usually soothed me. Tonight, it just felt cold. I wrapped my flannel shirt tighter around myself and looked around the space. This was my sanctuary. Amber work lights cast long shadows over the stacks of reclaimed cedar. The jars of varnish. The rows of chisels and planes that I kept sharper than surgical instruments. To the world, I was just Lydia, the quiet sister who liked to make things. To my family, I was the utility player, the fixer, the one you called when the antique chair legs snapped or the deck needed refinishing, but not the one you invited to dinner. I picked up a sanding block and went back to work on the credenza I was restoring for a client. The repetitive motion was grounding, back and forth, smooth the rough edges, fix the damage. It was all I had ever done. For years, I had told myself it was love. When I paid off my father's credit card debt because he'd made a bad investment, I told myself that's what daughters do. When I covered Sienna's tuition because her scholarship fell through, I told myself I was investing in her future. But as I stood there in the cold, listening to the rain and thinking about them in their warm, glass-walled house on the hill, a house I helped pay for, I realized something. It wasn't love. It was rent. I was paying a tax for existing in their orbit. Psychologists call it learned helplessness. But that implies passivity. This wasn't passive. It was an active, daily transaction. I had been conditioned to believe that my value was entirely dependent on my utility. If I stopped being useful, I stopped mattering. My silence wasn't peace. It was the price of admission. I was the invisible chain that held their lifestyle together. And they had convinced me that the weight of it was a privilege to carry. I looked at the unread text again, ruining the aesthetic. My utility had finally been outweighed by my optics. I was no longer useful enough to offset the embarrassment of my existence. The realization didn't hit me with a bang. It hit me with the quiet click of a lock turning. I set the sanding block down. I turned off the amber lights. I locked the heavy steel door of my workshop, a property that was solely in my name. Paid for with cash, I had saved by eating ramen while they dined on my dime. I drove home in the rain, the windshield wipers keeping time with my thoughts. I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. I didn't write a diary entry. I didn't write a letter of grievance. I opened my banking app. I opened my old emails. And I started writing down numbers. Date. Amount. Reason. It took me hours. By the time the sun began to bleed, gray light through the clouds, the list covered 3 pages. I stared at the final total, double underlined at the bottom. $125,000. That wasn't a contribution. That was a lifestyle. I closed the notebook. The fear that usually gripped me when I thought about confronting them, the fear of their anger, their disappointment. Their rejection was gone. It had been replaced by the cold, hard clarity of a balance sheet. My phone buzzed. 7 a.m. New Year's Day. A text from Sienna. Emergency. Come to the house. Now. No Happy New Year. No apology. Just a demand. I stood up, picked up the notebook, and walked out the door. The rain had stopped, leaving the world washed clean and gray. I got into my truck and drove up the hill to the glass house. When I pulled into the driveway, the signs of the party were still evident. A caterer's van was loading up crates. The front lawn was littered with confetti. I walked up the stone path, my boots crunching loudly in the silence. The front door wasn't locked. I pushed it open. The house smelled of stale champagne and expensive perfume. My mother, Patricia, was sitting on the white boucle sofa, holding an ice pack to her head. My father, Gregory, was pacing the floor, looking pale. Sienna was standing by the dining room table, her face blotchy from crying or a hangover. I couldn't tell which. When she saw me, she didn't say hello. She pointed at the table. "Thank God you're here," she snapped. "Look at this." I looked. The antique mahogany dining table, a piece from the 1800s that I had spent a month restoring for them 2 years ago, had a massive, jagged crack running down the center. Someone had clearly danced on it. "Silas is coming over at noon for brunch," Sienna said, her voice rising in panic. "He can't see this. He's an architect." "Lydia, he cares about structure and preservation. If he sees we trashed a piece like this, he'll think we're savages. You have to fix it." "Now?" I asked, my voice calm. "Yes." "Now," she shrieked. "Fill it. Sand it. Stain it. I don't care what you do. Just make it disappear. You have 3 hours." Patricia looked up from the sofa. She didn't look ashamed. She looked annoyed. "And while you're here," she said, reaching onto the coffee table and picking up a piece of paper. She held it out to me. "The caterer just handed us the final invoice. We're a little short until your father's dividends clear next week." I took the paper. It was a bill for $4,500. "You want me to pay for the party I wasn't allowed to attend?" I asked. "It's a family expense." "Lydia," Gregory grunted, not even looking at me. "We all chip in. That's how this family works. Don't be petty." "Pettu," I repeated. I looked at the broken table. I looked at the bill in my hand. Then I looked at my family. They weren't hungover. They were drunk on entitlement. They truly believed that I existed solely to metabolize their consequences. They broke things. I fixed them. They spent money. I paid the bill. They made a mess. I cleaned it up. And they hid me in the shed while they did it. "No," I said. The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Sienna froze. "What?" I said no. I repeated, my voice steady. "I'm not fixing the table. And I'm certainly not paying this bill. You have to." Sienna hissed, stepping closer. "Silas is coming. This is my future. Lydia, don't be jealous just because you're alone." "Jealous?" I looked at her. "Sienna, I'm not jealous. I'm exhausted. I'm done paying for a life I'm not allowed to live." "You're being dramatic," Patricia said, waving her hand dismissively. "Just write the check. Lydia, we'll pay you back." "Like you paid me back for the roof?" I asked. "Like you paid me back for the credit cards?" "Those were gifts," Gregory shouted. "We raised you. We put a roof over your head." "I bought this roof," I snapped, gesturing to the glass walls around us. "My down payment got you this loan. My monthly transfers keep the lights on. You didn't raise me. I financed you." The silence that followed was heavy, thick with the sudden, terrifying realization that the ATM had just unplugged itself. Then, the front door opened. We all turned. Standing there, framed by the morning light, was a man I had never met but recognized instantly. Silas. He wasn't supposed to be here until noon. He was wearing a dark coat, his hair windblown. He looked from Sienna's panicked face to my work boots, then to the broken table. He didn't look at the damage, He looked past the family, past the drama, and his eyes landed on me. He walked into the room, ignoring Sienna's gasp. He walked straight up to me. He didn't look at my face. He looked at my hands. Then he looked at the corner of the room, where a hand-carved rocking chair sat, the only piece of furniture in the house that had any soul. He walked over to the chair. He ran his hand along the joinery of the armrest. He inspected the dovetail keys. He turned back to me, his eyes wide. "You're L.G.," he said. It wasn't a question. He blinked. "I am." Sienna let out a nervous laugh. "Silas. Honey. This is just my sister Lydia. She's handy. She fixes things." Silas ignored her. He was staring at me with an intensity that made me want to check if I had sawdust on my face. "I've been trying to find you for 6 months," he said to me. "I sent 3 inquiries to your website. Your agent said you had a 2-year waitlist for commissions." "I do," I said. "Wait," Patricia said, sitting up. "What are you talking about? Lydia just messes around in the shed." Silas turned to them, his expression shifting from awe to confusion. "Messes around? This chair is a masterpiece. The joinery alone is worth more than this entire living room set. L.G. is one of the most sought-after artisans in the Pacific Northwest. You didn't know." Sienna's face went pale. "L.G. That's just her initials. It's not a brand. It's a legend." Silas corrected. He turned back to me. "I'm an architect. I build structures. But what you do, you build souls. I wanted to commission you for the lobby of the new library downtown." I saw the email. I said quietly, I wanted to take it, but I didn't have the time. I was too busy fixing antique tables. Silas looked at the broken table. He looked at the crack. He looked at Sienna. "You broke a 19th century mahogany dining table," he asked, his voice flat. "It was an accident," Sienna cried. "We were dancing. It doesn't matter. Lydia can fix it. She always fixes it." "Can I see your portfolio?" Silas asked me, ignoring her again. "Do you have sketches?" I hesitated. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out my tablet. I opened my portfolio folder. Silas took the tablet. He scrolled through the images. High-resolution photos of credenzas, armoire, intricate chairs, restoration projects that had saved pieces from the landfill and turned them into museum quality. He stopped scrolling. He frowned. He reached into his own coat pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times, then held his phone up next to my tablet. On his screen was Sienna's Instagram page, her professional design portfolio. "Sienna," Silas said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Why are these photos the same?" Sienna froze. "What?" "Your design portfolio," Silas said, turning the screens toward her. "The portfolio that got you into the Parsons summer program. The portfolio you showed me when we met. The Restoration Modern series that won you that award." He pointed to the image on my tablet. It was a photo of a mid-century dresser I had restored 3 years ago. I remembered it vividly. I had spent weeks sourcing the correct brass handles. "This is Lydia's work," Silas said. "The metadata on her file is from 3 years ago. Your post is from last month." The room went dead silent. I looked at the screens. I saw my work, my sweat, my hours, my designs displayed under Sienna's name. "You stole my portfolio," I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I didn't steal it," Sienna screamed, her face flushing crimson. "I styled it. I picked the room. I created the aesthetic. The furniture is just the furniture. It's the context that matters. You just fixed the wood." I gave it meaning. "It's intellectual property theft," Silas said coldly. "You claimed you designed and built these pieces. You lied to your school. You lied to your clients. You lied to me." "It's family," Patricia yelled, standing up. It's all family money anyway. What does it matter whose name is on it? As long as the family succeeds, Lydia doesn't care about fame. She likes being in the background. She's happy to help her sister shine. I am not, I said. The anger that had been a cold knot in my stomach suddenly unfurled. It was hot now. It was blazing. I am not happy to help her shine, I said, my voice rising. I am not happy to be the fuel you burn to keep yourselves warm. I walked over to the table where I had set my bag. I pulled out the notebook. The ledger. You say it's all family money. I opened the notebook. Let's talk about family money. I slammed the notebook onto the broken table. October 2018. Dad's gambling debt. $8,000. Paid by Lydia. January 2019. Sienna's tuition. $12,000. Paid by Lydia. March 2020. The roof repair you claimed cost 10 grand but actually cost 6. And you pocketed the difference. Paid by Lydia. I flipped the pages. The rustling of paper was the only sound in the room. The monthly mortgage payments. The car insurance. The emergency loans. The catering bill you just tried to hand me. I looked at my father. He was shrinking into himself. Deflating like a punctured tire. $125,000. I said, that is what I have paid to be treated like a servant in this house. That's not true. Gregory stammered. We have assets. The house. The house is leveraged to the hilt. I said, I saw the notices you tried to hide. You're drowning. This lifestyle, this glass house, it's a hollow shell. It's an empty wallet pretending to be a bank vault. And the only thing holding it up was me. I looked at Sienna. You're not a designer. I said, you're a thief. And you're not a golden child? You're a parasite. Sienna burst into tears. Silas. Please. She's lying. She's jealous. Silas looked at her with a look of absolute revulsion. He put his phone back in his pocket. I can't be with a fraud, he said. And I certainly can't be with someone who treats an artist like help. He turned to me. Lydia, I'm leaving. I'd like to offer you that commission. Triple my usual rate. And I'd like to buy that rocking chair. Name your price. It's not for sale, I said, but I'll take the commission. Silas nodded. He walked to the door. He didn't look back at Sienna. I picked up my notebook. Lydia. Wait, Patricia cried, lunging forward to grab my arm. You can't leave. The table, the bill. If Silas leaves. Sienna loses her contacts. We'll be ruined. You have to fix this. I looked at her hand on my arm. Her manicured nails digging into my flannel shirt. Fix it yourself, I said. I pulled my arm away. I'm done fixing things that are broken beyond repair. I walked out the door. Behind me, I heard the sounds of the glass house shattering, Sienna screaming, Gregory shouting, Patricia sobbing. I got into my truck. I didn't look back. 6 months later, the new studio smells of fresh pine and brewing coffee. It's 3 times the size of my old workshop. The windows are huge, letting in the gray. Beautiful Pacific Northwest light. I'm not working alone anymore. I have 2 apprentices' kids who love the craft as much as I do. We're building a massive conference table for the city library. It's beautiful. Solid white oak. Built to last 100 years. Silas comes by on Tuesdays. We drink coffee. We talk about structure and design. It's not romantic. Not yet. It's respectful. It's solid. My parents lost the glass house. Foreclosure. They moved into a condo in the suburbs. Sienna is working retail. No design firm would touch her after word got out about the portfolio. They call me sometimes. I don't answer. I realized something that morning in the rain. My revenge wasn't destroying them. They destroyed themselves the moment I stopped propping them up. My revenge was building this. My own table. My own roof. My own life. I walked over to the window and looked out at the trees. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I was the builder. And for the first time in my life, the foundation under my feet was solid. I built my own table, and I've never been hungrier for life. If you're ready to stop fixing everyone else's mess and start building your own peace, hit that subscribe button. Share this story with someone who needs to know they are worth more than what they provide. See you in the next one.